Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm Edgewenka, and I want to welcome my guest, Dr. LaVon Broley, Deputy Chief Education Officer, and Connie George, Chief Education Officer. Welcome to Spotlight. Good to see you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having
I
us.
think both of you know strangers, right?
No.
You've been here before. Okay, so everything gonna be cool. We're gonna have a good time. There's a new initiative coming up, Key Stage Assessment, that you're going to begin to implement in the school. It's from primary school to secondary
Secondary
school,
schools.
primary school and secondary schools.
Yes.
Give us a little background and explanation about what is Key Stage Assessment.
Well, thank you for having us again, and a pleasant evening to our Spotlight audience. The Ministry of Education and Culture will shortly integrate Key Stage Assessment into the education system. There are some areas in the Education Act which we have not yet addressed, Key Stage Assessment being one, and we are now taking the necessary steps and actions to ensure that the mandate for Key Stage Assessment in our school system is realized. Now, in this process, the curriculum will be organized into blocks of years mandated by the Act called Key Stages, where at the end of each key stage, the student's performance will be formally assessed to measure the child's progress. This process will happen in the core subjects math, English, science, social studies. The process started at the beginning of this school year in stage 1 with the Key Stage Readiness Test. And this test has so far enabled us to identify the strengths and weaknesses of the students entering our system, as well as the strengths and weaknesses from the centers from which they came. And this is invaluable information to us because it helps us to focus and strengthen the shortcomings as we make plans to strengthen the education system.
Okay, so all right, good. Let's go home. We got everything. And that's all the questions. All the questions one time, right?
No.
Well, so it's already implemented.
This school
It's
year
already
is began,
started.
yes,
So is this at this September it started
with the
Yes.
stage 1.
with stage 1 students, and how when you say it's implemented, it started. What is happening? You had an assessment already. Assessment is to come.
We had an assessment at the beginning of the school year for the students who are coming from the preschools into our system.
And how was that assessment done? What form did that take?
We were basically, my name is Connie George, and I'm happy to be here. We were basically looking to see if the students who are coming into the system has the steps or the foundation on which we now need to build. So they come into stage 1. Can they identify their colors?
So you gave them a test. You gave them.
And this test would have been at their level. It may have just simply been asking them to show us different colors. It would have been asking us to say your ABCs. It may have been asking us for them to count from 1 to 5. You know, those are the things that we would have expected that a child at 5 years old will know.
Would be able to do.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so you take the different students
Individually.
and you categorize them into daycare. What daycare they came from.
Well, they would have come to us from the different daycares.
Were you identifying and were you saying, well, these students here are from this daycare, these students from this preschool, because if you want, as Dr. Broley said, you wanted to see where the foundation was being laid, and if that foundation was effective, so that you would be able to strengthen that foundation. That's why I understand you say, Dr. Broley.
Yes.
Right. So,
and strengthen the foundation in terms of what the students are coming to us with,
Right.
not necessarily looking at their preschool or their origin, even though that will be important for us, but that's not our number one
That was
focus.
never okay.
Our number one focus is to be able to know how we will begin with these children. And by that I mean, we may have had a child who didn't go to a preschool, but they are now 5 years old. So they're
Okay.
coming to us with a clean slate. So we will now be able to say, okay, here's a child that we know we can't start at this level, we have to start with this level. So here the grouping idea and the change from the whole class idea comes into focus. And again, that's one of the things that we are hoping to have, that differentiated learning coming out very strongly as we progress with this process.
'Cause I'm asking that question because I'm concerned about our early childhood education process. And it seems like it leads to constant remediation all throughout the life of the human being. And I have a personal issue with
Okay.
that because it seems to me like we paying double for education. So I pay for early childhood education in a preschool, right? And the expectation is that child is going to be on a certain level at primary
When you
one,
get to-
at primary one, whatever that
Stage
stage
one.
is called,
Stage one.
stage one is called, right? But then the child is not fully prepared for stage one, so the primary school now have to go and start from scratch when they should be starting from a more advanced stage. And then the primary school, at the end of the primary 5, you find that the child has not gotten all of what they needed in early childhood education and in primary 5. Then you got to do remedial classes again in first form. So
Well-
you pay for that education in early childhood, then you pay for it again in the primary school, and then you pay for primary school education in primary school, and you pay for it again in secondary school. That is an issue that I have. We're paying double for
Well-
education because we're not meeting the standards.
Sort of off the topic, but I will just bring this in and say, basically, what the key stage would help us to do is early intervention. All right? When I say that, I mean we are identifying in stage 1 those children who may not have met our requirements. In the past, they would have all come in and they would have all gone through without us having a formal way of saying, well, you know, this child really is not ready. It could be several reasons why the child is not ready. And you may have identified one of them as being not getting the necessary foundation. On the other hand, the child may have been exposed to the necessary foundation, but for one reason or the other, did not grasp it. So here we are able to look, because in education, every educator needs to be able to know the early signs that will hinder development in learning. So every educator needs to know those signs. And here we are looking at this document, we are looking at the results, and we're able to say, well, maybe we need to do some kind of testing, some further testing to see if there is an early learning development hindrance. We don't know.
Whether it's physical or social, for
Yes,
example.
or it could be a learning disability.
Right.
Okay, and they come in various forms. And so we have jumped the gun way over, Adrian, in terms of, because that's one of the things that the key stage we are hoping for it to do for us.
So that's a major benefit.
Yes, we are hoping that it will do for us the things that we have been grappling with for a little while, and one of them is being able to identify your students earlier than we are now that need intervention. So remediation is going to be very, very key in this whole process. We are fully aware that we have to put into our system a whole lot more remedial measures, and we are looking forward to working through it and seeing how we will get that out. Because you see, the whole thing about key stage, if you know of a child's development, they go through stages. And as your physical changes in each stage, you're expected to be able to do certain things. If you see a child who is already 7 years old and that child is not speaking, has not said a word, that's a red flag way high in the sky, and we have to see what is the problem. But if that child at 1 year old is not speaking, it is not a red flag. We recognize that some kids might do it 9 months, 1 year, 1 year, 5 months. But if a child gets a 7 and still not speaking, We have a problem.
That's a problem.
Yes. So that is the kind of thing that the key stage will do for us, key stage testing. We are expecting that the children will be at a particular academic level by the identified stages. Now, these tests are not going to be run every year. What is expected to happen is that teachers and the schools are expected to do what they're doing right now, teach for learning, continuous teaching for learning, and their internal assessments, their accumulation of grades, and then decide whether the child has mastered the information and they're ready to move on. So from class 1, class 2, and then the stage at which we would intervene again in terms of a standardized test would be at class 3.
Okay, so this is in the primary education
That's primary,
section.
yes.
So in the beginning, you have a key stage,
Right.
which you will be
To
assessed.
see how they're coming to
And
us.
then in the third grade,
In class
third to
3, grade 4.
you'll have another test, and then class 5,
Yes.
we have another test.
Yes.
So the value, does that diminish the value of the test? Well, just take example of the Primary 5 exam that is like, the exam. Everybody is geared up. You hire consultants from all over the world to make sure your child passes the Primary 5 exam. That's how anxious parents get. Does that mean that
we are hoping that will decrease.
That will diminish in value?
We will hope that anxiety will decrease at that point when we are now using other stages for this evaluation.
So your advancement or your success or moving from one class to the other
will not depend
totally depend on one exam.
No, it will not at all depend on that one exam anymore. We are going to be looking at a child as they begin with us, taking them through the necessary classes and the levels, and a standardized test will come to show that the child has mastered. If the child has not mastered overall, we are looking at territory-wide, then we know we need to do some intervention. Intervention here may mean extra classes, may mean changing our strategy, may mean different methods, a variety of things. And I mentioned the word earlier, differentiated learning, because we are fully aware that over the last several years, we have had to strategize and change our focus on whole class teaching to group teaching, because within our classes, we are having students who have different ways of learning. So if I'm teaching, if I'm having a discussion today, I should somewhere come with something different for the child who is not going to get it through a discussion. That child might need to sit and write their answers out, so I must include something like that.
So are we going to have assessment then of the different types of learning for students as well? Because I know, and whenever you say that, that's a possibility.
That's a professional development session. That means these are the things that we're going to be doing with our teachers, ensuring or trying to ensure that we have our teachers well engaged in learning that will vary their strategies.
So the teaching and learning methods are going to change as well along with this key stage assessment.
All I can say is we are hoping. We are hoping that these things will fall in place.
Well, are they going to fall in place, or do you have to make them happen? Because it seems to me like the key stage assessment is going to depend on these various teaching methods and learning methods.
So we are going to do what is necessary.
So you are going
our professional development, our encouragement to the teachers, having them trained where necessary, giving them exposure to variety, and
this is a policy that's coming from the ministry.
Yes,
you're handing this down, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I'm trying to figure out how it's going to work if you don't have those things in place where teachers know that they are responsible. Now, are we going to be holding our teachers more responsible for the learning of the children?
Yes. We are like we are now. We are going to be, and one of the things that we started even more doing is supervision in the schools, where the officers have been challenged to be in the schools and our presence be more visible in the schools. And that is going to be extremely important that we are there. We are supporting our principals. The principals are doing what they need to do, and the teachers in turn will follow suit, will carry out their responsibility.
And in addition to that, we have also trying to implement a new evaluation process where we will not only have the principal evaluating our teachers, but we will have more bodies in the classroom evaluating the teachers as well.
So we're holding the teachers accountable for teaching the information. Now, part of the assessment, as I noted in your information dissemination process, is going to have to deal with cognitive thinking skills, development of cognitive thinking skills, and analysis, and so on. I know when I went to school, and I think up to recently, perhaps until this new initiative, retention by memory was an important component of learning and responding to testing. To the extent that you were able to memorize and regurgitate, to that extent you were successful on your exams. Is that going to change now?
In every test, we'll have a measure of. There will always be a measure of information you have to know. So that retention will always be there. However, we are hoping the test is more of a diagnostic, more wide-based, and so it would give the students an opportunity to do more analyzing, critical thinking, and inculcating their own personal feelings in the presentation.
But your broader assessment,
yes.
your broader assessment,
Yes.
apart from a test, would be based on those judgments.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we will be having a more broad-based diagnostic approach on the key stage testing.
Well, by necessity, your teaching method would have to change.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
And our teachers trained as they stand now to engage in that different teaching style.
Mrs. George alluded to it earlier. She said that we will have to do a number of professional development sessions to ensure that this happens.
Okay. So that's part of the whole
package.
key
The whole
stage
package, yes.
Yes.
key stage assessment process. So our teachers are already in the training mode for a different teaching styles.
Professional development has started.
Okay. That sounds political. Professional development has started. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's cool. I'm excited about the new development actually, because I think it bodes well for our children,
Yes.
and particularly in this modern era where cognitive thinking is almost the all in learning. So we have now a broader role for parents as well. Is there thought about what the role of the parents are going to be? Are we going to need or require parents to be more involved in their children's education than they should have been in the past?
Adrinka, I believe that we have always wanted parents to be fully engaged with their children. So again, we will be encouraging parents to take up the mandate. It is not just the classroom, but the parents must do their part at home, provide a necessary environment. We show that students are exposed, or their children are exposed to the necessary natural learning processes in terms of, when you're driving in your vehicle, it's not just playing a game on the iPad or something, but you're engaging them in a conversation. And that type of natural learning goes a long way for our children. So we are expecting that the parents would have an open communication with their children. We're expecting that our parents will provide the necessary, study environment, be sure that they have the basics for learning, be sure that they are supplied with their tools for learning, and the whole list can go on. But these are things that we have always been requiring of our parents. So again, we could just encourage them again to do that, to do all those things.
But have we been falling short though as parents in that area there?
That's a blanket statement, because we do have parents who go above and beyond,
right,
to be sure that their
but
children.
but
we do have some parents who
speaking,
we really need to speak to and get them to come on board.
Are we going to do anything to help to motivate those parents and get those parents to really buy into their need and the role that they have to play in the education and children? And just as you said, we have parents who are going beyond and above their call of duty, and we could tell whose parents are
Yes.
involved by the success of their children.
Yes,
I think
yes.
to the large degree, to the extent that a parent is involved in a child's education, to that same extent that child is successful in
Yes.
getting that education. I think
Yes.
it's been proven, right?
Yes, certainly.
So, are we going to take on part of that as well? Education systems going to take on part of that motivational factor of
Yes.
encouraging and
As a matter of fact,
cajoling and,
there has
and
been-
marketing to the parents.
Yes, as a matter of fact, there has
Please.
been some talk about parent meetings and parent sessions. So all this can tie in with the whole process as we look at it. So, but in honesty, to answer your question, a whole lot of detailed thought have not gone into what we're going to do with the parents. It's just a matter of saying, well, we know we have to do some things with the parents, and for those parents who would need the assistance in helping their children.
Okay. What have I neglected to ask? So you have meetings coming up,
Yes.
right? Where those meetings are going to take place?
Our first meeting is going to be tomorrow evening. That's
Okay.
Wednesday evening at the Briarcliff Hall, Sir Rupert Briarcliff Hall. It's going to begin at 7:30, and I would like to take this opportunity to invite parents, guardians, all well-wishers, community-minded persons, everybody who you all are stakeholders in education, and we need your input in everything that we are doing. So on behalf of the Minister of Education and the entire education ministry, I just want to invite you all to come out and be a part of this discussion, which we hope will be very interactive and a learning experience for all of us. And whatever you have to tell us and whatever you have to share will be useful.
And what you're expecting to result from these meetings? What are you're coming with the public, and you know, what you're expecting public buy-in? You're expecting you're just sharing information. What do you have a goal for the public meetings? What are your expectations?
Our goal is to, if there are any questions, to answer the questions and to really let them know what our intentions are, as we want to make the public aware of what is happening within education. I think sometimes our public operate in ignorance because we do not allow them or give them the information that they need. So we don't want them to move away with key stage testing doing something that it cannot do for us, but we want to make sure we are telling them exactly what the key stage testing is all about. And I would add here that for us coming on board with key stage testing, that's a UK term, but it's something that happens all over the world. Americans call it, most recently, Obama have introduced the Common Core standard approach, where he's sending this information out to all students within the U.S. territories, and they're expected to prepare the students to do this common assessment at the end of the process. So that is something all over. The UK does it, the Americans do it, Australia, Canada, wherever you probably go, you can find forms of the key stage testing. The idea is that we remove the focus from one central area, two central area, and spread this thing out across the child's learning period within their primary and secondary years. And it will help us to measure territory-wide what our students are doing and help us to implement policies that will.
So you expect to
Take us.
gather a tremendous amount
Yes,
of data that would inform
certainly.
policy decisions.
Yes, yes.
Now, this is a big deal.
It
I mean,
is.
it's a changeover from what we're accustomed to. What challenges you expecting to have to overcome in the switch to key stage assessment?
Well, you alluded to one very earlier, and that is the one with being sure that our teachers are doing what they're supposed to do. Because it's very, very easy to teach to a test. And we are hoping that our teachers will really focus on teaching for learning. That is going to be key, that our students are not learning what the test is saying. Because the first one you may not know, but by the second, the third, or the fourth, you will know the format in which these tests will be taken. And then you tend to get that kind of focus, and we are hoping that that will not happen. So that's why our supervisory role will be so very important.
How are the
at all
teachers responding
levels.
to this?
We had a meeting with the principals and selected teachers, and the principals were supposed to have been sharing this with the entire staff. Actually, on August 26th, when the minister spoke, he alluded to the fact that we wanted to go in that direction, and I am happy to say that the applaud was very loud. I mean, that was one of the areas of his speech that had a very loud applaud, and I believe that in education is something that we all know of. It's just that it has not been practiced in our system.
So our teachers are familiar with
They
the
are
process.
familiar with the general term. Yeah, the detail of it, I can't tell you that they know. Now we are bringing it out. We are
Okay.
hoping to get all the detail pulled together and all the pieces come together.
Because it calls for a lot of cognitive thinking on the teacher's part as well.
And good planning.
And good planning. So that's going to be interesting to see how we manage it. And I mean, it's a great thing.
Yeah.
What the final thing is, and I wanted to ask this earlier, but I slipped my mind. But I'll do it now. You talk about the different kinds of learning. Actually, children learning in different ways.
Yes.
Are we going to do an assessment of the children's learning styles? 'Cause it seemed to me, right? And I don't know if you know that Medita Wheatley, for example.
Right.
I was when I hear about that particular aspect
Right.
of teaching and learning, I always think of her because I know she's done some extensive work
In that.
in left brain oriented, right brain
Yes,
oriented
yes.
children and the learning styles associated
Exactly.
with those hemispheres. And it seems to me that it would be great for a teacher to know beforehand on their roster, on their student roster, right next to the name of the student, L R L L R R R L L, meaning this student is left brain oriented, this student is right brain oriented, and by having that information, a teacher can assess how many students in the class are right brain oriented, how many students in the class are left brain oriented, and how the combination of methods of teaching need to be applied in those types of situations. Is that something that sounds like it make any sense at all?
Yes, but it goes a lot deeper than that, more than just left brain, right brain. We have things like auditory learners, sensory learners, those who need a visual picture, those who need to touch it, the manipulatives. And these are things that the teachers, once you're a trained teacher, you have been exposed to that. What is probably not happening is that we have not been practicing all of this. So again, it's just a matter of us trying to reinforce the information that you have learned, that you really do need to vary your teaching styles within your classroom. And we have come up over the years doing a lot of chalk and talk. That is the blackboard, you stand up and you lecture. The lecture method has been very popular, but we are hoping that we can get them away from that. This is the age of technology.
More of an interactive.
Yes, this is the age of technology. Nothing is wrong with having a visual classroom, a virtual classroom. Nothing is wrong with having them use the computers. And we are hoping that we're going to get these. And I could put a plug in for all the businesses who would like to make donations.
And
The
to thank
schools
all
are
the businesses
open.
who already
Yes,
made
and some have made donations,
yes.
and we are grateful.
Yeah.
And I put in a plug here for the businesses, business owners who are listening.
Yeah.
Give us some donations. We need some technology in the schools, and yes, we are hoping that the government will, but we know that they can't do it all.
Well, I know,
So we need the
for example,
support.
there's schools in the territory already where all the students take their laptop to school every single day.
Yes,
You
yes.
know, and they are plugged into their smart board, and they
Yes. So even a smart
interact.
boards, you can give us some
They-
contributions of
they-
smart boards
they,
also.
They interact. So
Because the smart board is an extremely good tool
That's-
for the
that's the
21st
cutting
century
edge of-
classroom.
of
Yes.
learning
The
technology.
Promethean board, yes.
teaching and learning.
Certainly.
Technology. Well, it certainly was a real pleasure. I don't know if there's any final comments to tell us where the meeting is going to be held again, actually,
Yes.
public meetings. And if any last words you want to impart, to look into the camera and talk away.
Oh. All right, thank you. It was great being here, and I just want again to encourage one and all to come out to our meetings tomorrow night at the Briarcliff Hall if you're in Tortola. And if you're in Virgin Gorda, we are going to be in Virgin Gorda next week, Wednesday evening at the same time, 7:30 p.m. at the Catholic Community Center. Again, we are looking forward to a large turnout in Virgin Gorda, and come with all your questions. Make sure you get it all cleared so you will have knowledge of what we are really trying to do. Our goal is to improve our education system and to allow our students to be so exposed and so well prepared that they're able to compete globally, not just in the BVI, and regionally, internationally. And I also will put a plug in here for the accreditation process that we have undertaken for a couple of years now, and we are getting to the point where we're ready to close in some of the schools. And here again, this process is extremely useful for the accreditation process that we are doing, that we can show from our self-study how our students are progressing. Students' learning is absolutely important when it comes to education, and their outcome, their results, is what we are looking for.
Thank you very much.
You're
I
welcome.
certainly want to congratulate you. You want to say something?
Just, I want to say that it was great being here, and I endorse what Mrs. George has said. I look forward to seeing a lot of you tomorrow evening, as well as next week Wednesday in Virgin Gorda. Thank you for having
Okay,
us.
cool. I'm excited about the way you guys are handling the education process and the improvement in the education system and improvement in standards. I
Yes.
think it's a very exciting time for education in the territory,
Yes.
and I wish you every success. Thank you again for being on Spotlight.
Thank
You for having us.
Yes. We're going to take a break forward from our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to be here with Honorable Marlon Penn, the representative for the 8th District. He's going to give us an update on what he's done over the last couple of years and what he plans for the future of that district. Keep it locked right at the Spotlight. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsor.
Spotlight is brought to you by Tortola Concrete Limited, Clarence Thomas Limited, and H. Lavity Stout Community College.